My name is Lance McNeil, and in today's video I'm going to revisit the business model canvas and take a deeper dive into the customer segmentation aspect. I am using the business model canvas template in Miro, and the customer segmentation is really where you want to start with the business model canvas. And in today's video we're going to look at some ways that you can describe your different customer segments. And really you can think about customer segments in four different categories as a way to describe your customer. One of the first and most frequently used, and maybe probably the easiest place to start, is with demographics, right? So if you're not familiar with this term, a good kind of example to get your mind associated with demographics is all those questions that are asked on a census form are demographic questions, for example. So these could be variables such as the age range, almost always a range, not a actual age of your customer. This could be, what else can we have? We could have an income level or an income range. Okay, so maybe you're looking for consumers who are between the ages of 21 and 45, making anywhere between $45,000 a year and $100,000 a year. Those would be two demographic variables that you would use to describe your customer segment. Okay. All right, and another one that's often used is marital status, right? Are you married, single, otherwise? So maybe we're looking for married individuals in a certain income range, in a certain age range. Can also use educational attainment. Okay, so maybe you're looking for a certain educational credential, college degree, professional degree, associate's degree, something like that. Maybe that's important. Not every demographic variable or characteristic will be important in describing your customer segment, because your customer segment is going to be unique to you and the overall business model. But some of these demographics will tend to be more valuable for you than others. So demographics, you can research the demographics of your customer using several databases, many of which are publicly available. The Census Bureau publishes some, but there are a lot of other market research databases that do a great job of taking demographic data and making it accessible for you to do that market research. So demographic characteristics. We can also look at, in kind of a similar way, geography. Okay, so you've got a business to consumer business, B2C. Oftentimes geography will be an important variable. Maybe you're targeting a certain metro area, or maybe you are focused a little more narrowly and you're targeting one or more zip codes only. And then if you've got a brick and mortar location, maybe you are really just focused on a radius around your location, right? Maybe I'm really focused in on the 2-mile, 3-mile, 5-mile radius around my storefront, because that's going to be the geography where that constrain where my customer will go and shop for my good or service. Okay, so now I can combine these demographics and geographic variables to describe my customer segments in two or more ways, right? So I'm looking for example, married couples between the ages of 20 and 45, making more than $45,000 a year within 2 miles of my address. Okay, the more variables that I put here and the deeper I describe my customer, the better I will be able to understand them, and the more targeted I can be in my outreach and marketing efforts. So again, just like demographics, these geographic variables are things that you can look up through Census Bureau tools, other research databases. Pretty relatively easy to find this information kind of secondhand. There are also other important ways to describe your customer. So let's take a look at those next. let's go here to psychographics or lifestyle characteristics, where a lot of the demographic variables we've talked about are things that you can look up. These are things that you can count. Maybe you can kind of look at somebody and tell something about them, right? But with psychographics, these are really the things that are going on inside of people's heads, right? These are their interests. These are their opinions. Okay, so we've got interests, opinions, or kind of strong opinions. We might call those beliefs, right? So certain beliefs or even values that are important. I might even have political views as part of my psychographic profile here. So for example, I may be a very eco-conscious consumer, and I want to know that when I buy something, it's going to have the least negative environmental impact as possible, right? That's really a value that I hold, and it's a belief that I hold dear is to be kind of a conscious consumer. So that would be an example of a psychographic characteristic. I may have other interests in, let's say we are offering a certain type of food, and maybe that is my favorite food, right? So that specific interest is really going to describe me in a meaningful way. All right, so let's take a look at maybe the fourth and final bucket here for customer segmentation, and that is behavioral. So these are the things not that we think, not that we say, or that we can count through demographic research, but these are the things that we do and that we can observe in our consumer. So what do they do? Right? Are they an outdoorsy person, right? Do they like to go hiking and camping and be outside as much as they can be in their free time, right? That would be partly a lifestyle. So some of these kind of blend over, but it's also it adds to the behavior that we can observe. We may think about someone who loves going to concerts. That's certainly part of their lifestyle, but it's also their behavior, right? They're every weekend they're going out and they are at a concert or a festival. Now, those behaviors can kind of pull away from lifestyles and become a little more specific, right? So going back to the eco-conscious consumer, I consider myself an eco-conscious consumer, and any time I can, as much as I can, I want to make sure that I can recycle, reduce my waste as much as possible. But sometimes I'm in a situation where that's very difficult to do, and I'll take something that's recyclable or compostable and I'll throw it in the trash can, unfortunately. Maybe I am not near a recycle bin, maybe I'm in a hurry, maybe I am juggling different things at once or just not in the right mindset. And so here I have a value that I hold really closely and dear to be a good steward of the environment, but I've done something in my behavior that's very different, right? And so this is why you have those buckets in two separate areas, because sometimes in certain situations and in the business model or the environment that we've designed, we can have consumers exhibit different behaviors than we would expect from their opinions, beliefs, values, and otherwise. So these are a couple of ways, a couple of lenses to think about when you are defining and coming up with how you describe your customer segments.